Hey, this is the World Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today is the problem with pessimism. Okay, so for this video, I'm going to explain the problem with pessimism when it comes to it being a way of thinking, when it comes to, of course, the issue of how we can make the world a better place. Because I've noticed in recent times, especially in philosophy circles, the idea of pessimism, or more like the ideology of pessimism, has been something that's promoted, and even to a certain degree in general through the media has been glamorized as a good way of thinking. But I want to talk about why it's a stupid way of thinking, and not just a stupid way of thinking, but a problematic and even straight up dangerous way of thinking, okay? When it comes to the issue of how we can make the world a better place, okay? So the reason why, to get started straight up, why it doesn't work, pessimism is a terrible way of thinking, is that it helps, or I should say, yes, of course, it helps prevent innovation, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to making the world a better place, we have to realize that you have to have a vision, you have to have ideas, okay? Because when you look at the history of the world, and it really shows you people really never change, okay? The truth of the matter is, okay, is that people, for the longest time, okay, for all the things we take so for granted today, it's ridiculous, okay? Like the idea of having cars, having medicine that actually keeps us alive instead of just always getting sick and dying, to having planes, like the ability to fly, all these things that are modern conveniences, even just the internet and all that type of stuff. When you look at the history of the world, okay, people always said this would never happen. Everything would never happen. Even in recent history, being someone who was born in 1995, I remember at one point, there was people who were wondering, is it possible we could ever have things like the internet like we know it today? They had internet back then, they had it in the 90s, but like the internet, what I mean by that is like the ability to communicate with people for video games. I remember that. I do remember that. There was a point where they were wondering if they could actually have online abilities for video games, like in the beginning of the console wars in the 2000s, like the ability to communicate and play against people throughout the world, like obviously, which we take so for granted now. People were wondering if that was possible. I remember back in 2003 having conversations. People said, I don't believe that happened. And in just 2 years it happened, So to answer your question straight up, simply put it, absolutely, pessimism is a terrible way of thinking, because they keep on being proven wrong over and over and over and over and over again, okay? And that is the honest truth, okay? And when it comes to, obviously, issues like technology, like maybe figuring out maybe better ways we can come up with technology, like maybe things like electric cars, let alone electric vehicles for everything, not just for cars, or in the case of infrastructure, maybe we could develop better systems to kind of handle issues we have, like with sewage, and all that type of stuff, and and even just straight up medicine, like maybe we can find like cures to diseases we think are impossible to cure, like AIDS, cancer, all that type of stuff. The truth of the matter is, okay, anything for that matter, okay, having a pessimistic way of thinking and saying, oh, that would never happen, just doesn't work, at all, because it just prevents people from having a vision, okay, to be quite honest with you. And obviously you need to have, a vision, okay, to be honest with you, okay? Because the way pessimistic people think, in all honesty, is that, you have to rely on the facts of how things work before we actually, focus on if something is possible, whether it could be things like the cost of it, or it could be things like, do the laws of science make it possible? That's what they always say, the laws of science doesn't make it possible, or something like, maybe the political situation and all that stuff. But all those things you know, that they think is actually just dumb, in honesty. Because I'm not saying everything is possible, that's definitely a very foolish thing to say and think. But the truth of the matter is, to put it bluntly, to answer your question, it's better to think anything is possible and improve to see if it's actually possible to do, by actually testing it out, than just believing everything is impossible and then I'll test it out to see if it's possible. Okay, it is just dumb because obviously it already lowers your ability to come up with an idea because you're already having, oh, that would never happen in the first place. Okay, that is so dumb, and that's why pessimistic ways of thinking, whether it comes down to things I mentioned, even a political state, is a very foolish way of thinking, to answer your question, to be honest with you, let alone the three main things I'm talking about as an example for the video. You have to have a vision, you have to believe anything is possible and then prove if it's possible, then not. Okay, and saying that, oh, I have to focus on the facts, like the cost of things, and the biggest one of course being, is it actually possible to do, based on the laws of physics and stuff like that, is a foolish way of thinking. Such as, for example, when it comes to technology. Okay, to be quite blunt and honest with you, I'll give an easy example for technology. Okay, to be quite blunt and honest with you, for technology, to answer your question, one of the biggest things that I have noticed, is that they always say, oh, is this possible or not? Maybe, like, for example, is it possible, like, to give an easy example, okay, to maybe, I don't know, have something like maybe a battery, on a phone that never runs out of energy for days. Okay, if you rely on the facts first, like, okay, there's only so much energy something can be used, you're already limiting yourself to being able to understand it, because you're basing it on the things that are known. How do you know there's not a material out there that could be developed that could withstand more energy, or in other words, conceal more energy? Okay, and that's what I'm trying to say. It limits your ability to come up with an actual good idea, in honesty, to be quite honest with you, because you're just basing it on the things that are known now, not actually things that you might actually find out is not actually as true as you thought it was. Okay, it's just like saying, give an easy example, okay, for people who live in the past, oh, space travel is not possible because there's nothing in nature that has enough energy to help put someone in outer space. Okay, but at the same time, when you look at it from their perspective at the time, you also realize that their way of thinking was limited because maybe the chemical, that, or more like the chemicals for that matter, that would be used to put something in outer space wasn't thought of yet. So in short, to answer your question, that way of thinking that, oh, I need to rely on the scientific facts first, is such a stupid way of thinking, to answer your question. Oh, I need to rely on the facts first, but you're basing it on everything that you know. It's like saying, okay, for example, okay, I know we can only cure this disease. We know we can only cure this disease because of the medical information we have now. In other words, the amount of medicine ideas we have now, when there's literally to this very day, literally dozens, hundreds, thousands of things, even in just the Amazon rainforest alone, that has already been proven that could be used as medicine to serve a lot of issues that might even help cure issues that we don't even know of. So that's a dumb way of thinking. It's like going back in time, to be even more specific, and saying, okay, we know we can't cure this disease, like maybe like 2,000 years ago, because we only have so much, plants and herbs available to us. But at the same time, there's so many more plants and herbs we've discovered in 2,000 years that can cure things that back then they wouldn't have known of. And like, let's say, for example, ancient Greece, to use as an example. So to say that, oh, you can only rely on the facts of what you know, is such a stupid way of thinking. It's not saying everything is possible, but at the same time, to answer your question, the truth of the matter is I'd rather test something out and see if it's possible than, of course, just simply relying on the facts of what is known at the period of time to figure out if something's possible or not, let alone cost. Because you can find ways around that too, you know, as well. So in short, that is the truth about pessimism. It doesn't work for anything. The truth is you want to be optimistic and believe anything is possible when it comes to solving the world's problems. And the truth is pessimism is an ideology for weak people who are not willing to take the risk of failure because they're weak and they're cowards. Okay, that is the truth of the matter. And they're very negative people. Sometimes you even go up to them. I've heard of many people say this, and you prove something's possible, and they just snap at you and give you a very nasty, rude reaction. They're losers, and they will always be losers. Ignore them, and that's the truth of the matter. And this is off the safe for this video, and I hope you learned something new. And that is all. So bye.